On this morning's show, Ball State makes a big move in welcoming new head coach Andy Stoots. U.S. star Gio Reyna takes his game off the pitch and into the boardroom with an ownership role at Fort Lauderdale United. And with American players in top form overseas, should we be worried they're peaking too soon? That and more coming up right now on Inside the Game.
Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler.
Good morning. It is Thursday, September the 25th here, 2025. You're watching episode number 166 here of Inside the Game. I'm Jonathan Turner. That's Nate Wangler, Ryan Glinsky, our producer. It is the 25th day of September. We had a great show yesterday. We had a great week of guests here on Inside the Game. We started with Monday, and Ryan, why don't you put that up on the screen here? Just looking at these guests, I mean, we've just had a really, really good grouping of guests here this week. Tony DeLuce on Monday, Kevin Boyd here on Tuesday, Sean Burke from Buffalo Women's Soccer yesterday, Andy Stoots from Ball State Women's Soccer will join us here this morning. Gareth Elliott will join us tomorrow from the University of Rhode Island. We also, after the show yesterday, had a chance to interview. We had 3 other interviews after the show that we did. It was funny. By the time we were doing the interviews, I'm pretty sure, Nate, you were ready to call it a day.
No, I just had to turn around and get to editing all the different interviews because I know we want to get a lot of FaceTime for all the coaches and the players as well. I had a couple of different players join us yesterday, so just wanted to make sure I had the time to be able to cut all those up. You'll be able to see all those clips, all those interviews on our social media platforms really throughout the course of this week and the weekend. So we're kind of going this like blitzkrieg when it comes to college soccer, whether it be on the men's or women's side. But I like it because it's been a fun season so far. And anytime you have top seeded teams losing or, teams that weren't supposed to maybe be in that conversation that are, it calls for an opportunity to go talk to those coaches and get their opinions and see what they see and really kind of get into the weeds on it, on the men's and women's side. We were talking about NC State a few days ago. I mean, that team has been, you said dark horse to begin the year. I think they're more than a dark horse. I think they're a bulldozer, but there's a lot of good teams. There's a lot of good players out there. And so I think part of us continuing to cover this sport is we got to focus on the college game in the U.S. And so I think it's fun. And like we were talking about the other day, there's no more competitive arena that a lot of these players will ever be a part of outside of college athletics simply because of what it represents and what it is. So it's fun. I love getting the chance to chat with everybody. I just gotta make sure I put that together so that the good people can see everyone we've been talking to the next few days. So it'll be fun.
It will be. We've been kind of chatting all week long about your love for the Indiana University football team. We had a comment come in actually on TikTok to start this off. Actually, it's for you, Nate. Why does Nate love Indiana football so much?
I wonder where that came from.
It came from Jonathan Turner in the TikTok chat. That's weird.
That was not me.
A random person with the same exact spelling as Jonathan Turner said it before the live even started.
It's actually Monathan Jerner. That's who left the comment.
That's right. No affiliation to the Jonathan Turner, but we have a great show lined up here today. Again, we talked about how we'll be joined here by the new head coach at Ball State and the Cardinals, and Andy Stoots.
Chirp.
We'll have him here join us in just a couple minutes. We're also going to talk about Gio Reyna. Not only is he obviously playing soccer sometimes on the soccer field, he's also going to be joining the boardroom there in Fort Lauderdale. We'll talk about that as well. And we've been seeing the success recently of U.S. men's national team players across the pond. The question I have and that we'll talk about today is, are they peaking too soon? I think it's a legitimate question. We'll talk about that this morning as well on the show, and that and much more as we'll get into your comments and mailbag here later in the show. But we will head to our first commercial and then be on the other side of the break, joined by Andy Stoots, the head coach of the Ball State Cardinals. So don't go anywhere. 166 continues. Welcome back here into Inside the Game here on this Thursday morning, episode number 166. That's Nathan Wangler. I'm Jonathan Turner. Ryan Glinsky, our producer. We're joined here now by the head coach of the Ball State women's soccer program, Andy Stoots, who was hired back in March of this year, previously over at Missouri as an associate head coach who helped the Tigers to multiple standout individual performances, including all SEC selections. Kylie Simmons, Grace Petite, Melina Fisher, and Bella Hollenbach. He's done a great job in his previous roles, multiple years of experience, and we're now joined here again by the Ball State head coach, Andy Stoots, and welcome to Inside the Game.
Hey guys, thanks for having me in. It's certainly a pleasure and an honor to be on your podcast. You know, you put up the list of coaches that you've had just this week, and I'm really not sure I fit in that list of lineup of experienced and and very good coaches. But I am excited to be here this morning and look forward to the conversation.
No, absolutely. We've made this I would say intentional reach out to coaches across the country, not just in the Power 5 schools, but to get into the smaller conferences as well. And I'm not saying that the MAC is a smaller conference, but I'm saying we've made this intentional effort to reach out to all these different conferences. We've had a chance to talk with ACC. We had a chance to talk with the AAC yesterday in Bob Buthorn. We obviously talking with the MAC, talking with the Horizon League, Big Ten, right? We're getting into all these conferences, and every conference has its own unique challenges, right? It has its own unique way of the game itself. Not all conferences have ties. Some have overtime rules still as well. And we actually had a chance yesterday to talk with Coach Burke about that because, you know, he's had more ties in the last number of years than he's had previously because of the overtime rules. Yeah. My first question for you is this. You're in your first year at the helm, right, at Ball State. What has been your biggest challenge stepping into this role, taking over this team?
You know, I don't know that I could really narrow it down to one specific challenge. Obviously, you know, going from a associate head coach role to a head coach role, there's going to be some learning for sure on the fly. And, you know, I think just going back to when I first got there in March, you know, I think learning Ball State was a big piece to it. I think learning about the players who we currently had on the team, you know, but I think for us as a coaching staff, I think getting the recruiting piece going really quickly was, I don't want to call it a challenge because we were lucky and fortunate to pick up some some good players and get a good class going both in 26 and 2027. But I think the challenge was just trying to hit the ground running as soon as we got there, and then moving on from that. You're there in March, and man, the spring is over mid-April, so we were really only to be there for several weeks there in the spring. So I think challenge for us going into the season from a team perspective was just making sure that we didn't overwhelm the group, that we learned our players' skill set, what they can do, what they weren't as good at, and just try our best to set them up to be successful, to be able to compete in year one.
Yeah, and obviously you going, as you mentioned, from an associate head coach to a head coach, obviously there's a learning curve there, especially when a lot of associate head coaches, their primary role is obviously in the training and recruitment of a lot of players, right? And so you have this recruitment background. I mean, and again, every school is different how they handle that process, but was that your primary role as an associate head coach at your previous job in Missouri, was to the recruitment road, get on that road and go out and recruit players as well as, train the team, and the head coach was the general manager, so to speak?
Yeah, I'd say a little bit of both. I mean, I certainly did a good amount of recruiting and a good amount of training on the field. But I think what I would say from a lot of my experiences, and including Missouri, is, I was fortunate enough to work for head coaches who invested in my development, right? They allowed me to be a part of a lot, allowed me to have some role in decision making. So really fortunate that I had those opportunities from, not just Stephanie Golan, but, several other coaches that I worked for that, allowed me to be me and develop. And I think it really did help rolling into this head coaching role. Certainly there's a learning curve when you take a new experience in any sort of way, but just really grateful that I had those opportunities so I could be a little bit more prepared than just going in blind.
Coach, I wanted to work in a really quick side note here because I know you're a native of Bristol, Tennessee, and it mentions that you're a 4-year letter winner as a goalkeeper at Milligan University. Which, were they an NAIA program when you were playing for them?
Yeah, they were. It was NAIA.
They were.
Okay.
And
that was late 90s, early 2000s, and I would assume that the NAIA was a lot different then than it is now.
A little bit, yeah, definitely a little bit. I just wanted to mention that I come from the NAIA level 2. I started at Cornerstone University, so I love my my NAIA folks. But anyways, I wanted to ask, because going from a conference like the SEC, obviously, to the MAC, there's a little bit of it, or a lot of it, of a difference there. But just getting into a new environment, we talked about the switch of role from an associate head coach to now being the head man at Ball State. When you get on campus, what's the first thing you do when you get into that brand new environment? Because we talk to a lot of these coaches that have been in the places they've been at for a decade now, or 15 years, or however long it's been. It's your first year coming into this brand new program and a brand new conference and a brand new area. What's task number one when you walk in the building?
I think task number one is to get to know the players that are currently there. I think in college athletics, like when there's a new head coach, there's going to be some players who don't want to stay. There's going to be some players who want to stay. But I think there's a lot of emotion on their part that goes with it, right? They don't really know who this new person is, or what the philosophy is, or what the agenda is, or any of that sort of stuff. So I think for me, the first piece was to build relationships with the players who were currently there, and get to know them. Because, ultimately they chose Ball State, and it's not their fault. Not their fault that they have a new head coach, right? Not my fault either. But I think just getting to know them, getting to know who they are as people, who they are as soccer players, and really why they chose Ball State, and why they chose to stay. I mean, I'm fortunate because, we have a lot of really good players on the team that would have had some opportunities to go, to any number of places, whether it be in the MAC level or, the SEC, ACC, Big Ten type level programs, and they all chose to stay. So, I think that was for me first and foremost is get to know them, get to know why they chose Ball State and what it is that keeps them there.
And in year one, obviously, really important to do that. How have you been able to meet them halfway? And do you feel that buy-in from them as well, that they're still willing to stick it out at Ball State because they came here for a reason, despite the fact that maybe they have a new head coach? Have you found that there is that buy-in?
Absolutely. I don't know that I could be more fortunate with the situation we're in when it comes to that. I think when you go into any program new as a head coach, new staff, however it may be, I think you understand that you have to understand there's a culture that exists there, right? You don't know what that is. You don't know if it's good. You don't know if it's bad. You don't really know anything about it. So I would say that, extremely fortunate that we walked into a program that had a really good relational culture already. And, from day one, with as much as I tried to embrace them, they embraced us right off the bat. So we had some really good training in the spring, some really good moments in the spring. We tried to do a lot of things with them. We did a bunch of stuff over the summer, just in terms of team Zooms and all that sort of stuff. But, gosh, every time I get that question, that's the one thing that I say is certainly I could have done a lot, but man, I am extremely fortunate that the players who were there and the freshmen who were incoming, who we didn't recruit, embraced us just as much as we embraced them. So, that was that was a little bit of a relief because again, like there's a culture, but you're not really sure what that's like until you come in.
Right.
Hey, Coach Stoots. Ryan here. I'm actually a Central Michigan Chippewa, so I really appreciate Maction and especially women's soccer. I had a chance to cover Central Michigan soccer last year. Actually called the Ball State Central Michigan game last year. And my question for you, so I, as a high schooler, I actually got accepted into Ball State. I think Ball State's campus is beautiful. Been there for a couple of games for women's basketball as well. I think it's a beautiful campus. I like Muncie, and I overall think the broadcasting program at Ball State's fantastic, by the way. But my question for you is, why did you choose Ball State? Why did you choose to come to Muncie, Indiana, and be the head coach of Ball State?
Yeah, really, really good question. And I would say that the longer I've spent time with the players and longer I've spent time at Ball State, my story matches theirs. From my first conversation with them at Ball State, I could get the sense that there was investment in athletics, which is big, right? Because as a coach, you want to be in a situation where you can compete. And the more people I talk to within the athletic department, the more I always go back to one of my basic philosophies is like the people make the place, right? It's all about the people that you're around. So I really enjoyed my conversations with them, really got the sense that there were a lot of really good people who were invested in our student athletes who themselves were invested in their own experience at Ball State. So, going on campus, I'd never been to Ball State before, obviously heard of it. I know the previous coach, Josh Reif, and we've talked a bunch over the years. But, I'd never really been on campus, didn't know much about the program, didn't know much about Ball State in general. And man, from the moment that I first stepped on campus, you're right. It's a beautiful place. You spend time there and you're like, wow, you can't believe that you're in, small town Indiana, right? When you come on campus. Amen. But the more I got to know people, the more I was just like, you want to be around people who care about you, right? You want to be around people who want you to be your best. And I just got that feel from a lot of people on campus. Very welcoming community, and that's what I would say after being there for 6 months or so is, the relationships that you build, not just within athletics, but within the broader Ball State community. I think we've been fortunate to get to know a lot of good people within the community in general, Muncie community. And not only have they wrapped around their arms around me, but our coaching staff, my family, all of that. I mean, I just can't go on and on about how special the community Muncie is. So the same reason that the players told me that they chose Ball State, that's the same reason that I chose Ball State. So, I would encourage anybody, if you haven't spent time around Muncie, you haven't been to Ball State, you got to get there and check things out.
Oh, I would agree with that.
No, that's great, and obviously I think it's been pretty cool because we haven't talked to a new head coach at a new university this season, and ultimately we talked to a lot of coaches, as Nate had already alluded to, who've been in the program for 12, 15, sometimes longer, and obviously you have this unique experience now coming in this unique environment, right? Your new roster, limitations have come out here the last couple of years. Typically, a coach coming into a new program, maybe has a couple years to kind of figure it out, right? And because usually that third year becomes like your year, right? You start to recruit players.
Yep.
You know, the Horizon League and the Mid-American Conference are very much aligned, and I think there's an equal amount of a dissension between both of those conferences, right? And we've seen it time and time again. And, you know, so far this year in your first year, you have beaten both of your Horizon League opponents, right? Purdue Fort Wayne, as well as IU Indy. Now, is there a kind of like an underlying tone at the universities in between the MAC and the Horizon League where ADs and athletic directors are saying, hey, you have to beat the Horizon League, you have to beat, you know, or is that part of that process?
You know, to be honest with you, I have not heard that. That has not been something that that has come across my my radar. But you know, I think one thing I know about ADs and administrators is they want to win just as much as we do, right? So I think anytime you can beat any opponent, they're happy. But I do think specifically the in-state opponents are different, right? Whether it be, you know, the ones that are so-called above our level or the ones that are our more peer type institutions. I think anytime we step on the field, we want to try to beat whoever it is that's across the field from us. So, you know, but I do agree 100%. I think our leagues are very similar in terms of level of play and schools and all of that. So, you know, I do think there is a little bit of a factor of trying to make sure you position yourself above your local peer institutions, for sure. But I would say both of those games were extremely competitive and, you know, fun games to be a part of, and just really happy that we came out on the positive end of that.
No, I mean, and the reason why I asked that question is, again, because a lot of the players, student athletes who are choosing to come to Ball State are also probably in the same ballpark of looking at going to Purdue Fort Wayne, especially in the state of Indiana, right? Or going to an Oakland University, Detroit Mercy, going to a Bowling Green, right? And so, you know, that's the player. And you know, if a team like Cleveland State, who we had a chance to talk with here last week, they have gone to the NCAA tournament. I think the last 3 years they've gone to the NCAA tournament. Is that could be a factor in recruitment, right? If you can get yourself to the College Cup. And my next question is this: is that, you know, Ball State took a step back last year as a program, right? The year before that, they'd finished third in the MAC, and then last year they finished 11th. You know, had an off year. Right now, you guys are currently sitting at 4-3-2, 1-1. Obviously, very early. 1-1-1, very early in the MAC season. But where are your expectations in this first year in the MAC about getting back to the top, or, you know, at that top five in the top mix of that conference?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll go back to what we've preached since day one is, you know, we can get caught up in, you know, in all the results, right? But before we can do that, we've got to be the best version of us. And I don't know that we've quite done that yet. But that's kind of been the goal is, you know, maximize each individual, maximize our team as a whole. And I believe that good things will come if we can do that. And I think we've been really close in moments. We've got a lot of new players this year. You know, close to half the roster is new. We've got a lot of younger players playing, a lot of freshmen playing, some returning players who haven't played a ton in the past that are giving us big minutes. So I think we're still kind of in that process of figuring that out. I mean, I know we're halfway through here, and I'm not sure that's ideal for me or the squad, but we keep taking steps forward. We keep getting better. And that's kind of where my focus is let's just see what will happen if we make us the best us. And so that's our primary focus for sure. But, you know, from a coach standpoint, from a competitive standpoint, every time out are we trying to do our best so that we can position ourselves towards the top of that league for sure, because 6 people or 6 programs will make our conference tournament. And I told our team the other day, I don't want to be the one that's sitting around twiddling our thumbs that first week in November when we could be playing. So, you know, our goal is to be in that mix at the end. And, you know, I think we have the tools that we can compete to be there. But it's on us to kind of maximize who we are as a team.
You know, tonight you have an opponent in Buffalo, right? New York. You're taking the Buffalo Bulls. And we had a chance yesterday, which we did not plan this, by the way. I think it's important. We even said this yesterday when we were setting up these interviews. Sean just happened to pick yesterday. You happened to pick today. And so it was kind of a unique situation for us to be like, hey, this is kind of cool. We get a chance to talk to two teams are going to be playing each other here over the next couple of days. So looking at tonight, you're going into Buffalo. We know how dominant they've been at home. We know how they've been over the last 12 years in the MAC. How are you going to approach tonight's game, being it's your first time in Buffalo as a Ball State head coach?
Yeah, I don't think any different than any other game, really. I mean, I think we know how good they are. We know how talented they are. We know how well coached they are. But I'll just, I keep going back to, the focus for us just needs to continue to remain us being our best, because our last two performances, I'm not sure that I was overly thrilled with those, although there were a lot of really good moments in our last game. Kind of an unfortunate situation led to a red card. But I think tonight for me, it's about us competing as hard as we can compete, executing tactically as best as we can, and just taking another step closer to being the best version of us. But there's no doubt it's going to be a very difficult game. Like I said, well coached, very talented, tough place to play. I think just being in that large stadium and on a football field with the football lines and all that sort of stuff. But one thing that we've pushed from the very beginning with this group is no excuses, right? There's nothing that's really standing in our way of giving our best and being the most competitive team on the field in any game. So that's going to be our focus, and we'll see how that works out at the end of it.
You've mentioned a lot about getting the best version of yourself, and I like that. There's a lot of coaches that, and I agree with that mentality that the only thing that you can control is you, right? And so that's the most important thing that you should be focusing on all the time on the field. Aesthetically speaking, when we're watching you guys, what is, in your mind, what is the best version of you guys?
I think when we're able to get good pressure on the ball and maintain our organization defensively, and then when we do force turnovers, that we're able to get it on the ground and move the ball quickly, switch the point of attack, and create chances with a lot of players running forward. I think that I think is what we've seen has been the best of us, because a couple things that I'm really pleased with this group is, they've sort of taken on doing things differently in a very positive way, an enthusiastic way. And I'm excited about that. We've shown glimpses of being very, very good, but we've kind of been okay in moments where we've stepped out and pressed teams, and we've been okay in moments where we've had to lay off and just protect our half of the field a little bit more. So they've shown that they can have a little bit of flexibility, but I think when we're at our best, we are pushing the pace of the game onto our opponent, and ultimately that's what we want to do on both sides of the ball, if at all possible.
We have made this habit on our network, especially during these interviews and across our platform, to talk about food. It is something that we think brings people together. Again, I even made this joke yesterday about, except if you want to put pineapple on your pizza, that might create some conflict. But aside from that, you're obviously you're new to Muncie, Indiana, right? You just come there in March, and this is where you've now put down your stakes, so to speak, and now you get to Ball State, and people are probably recommending a lot of places to go get food, to maybe go and shop. What have you found in Muncie, Indiana? It's a great place to go maybe and have a family dinner or to have that meal.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's a couple of places. So right on campus, there's a place called Roots Burger Bar. Excellent. Tons of different choices, burgers, chicken sandwiches, the whole deal. They kind of have a little bit more of the sports bar vibe, but kind of a more of a laid back vibe there. I think on the other end of that, if you are looking for an excellent steak, an excellent dining experience, I would say Lahode Steakhouse downtown is an awesome place to go. If you are looking for a place to dress down, listen to good music, and have an old school burger with a pint, Savage's Ale House is a good place. I think I could go on and on. So if you haven't been to Muncie, there's several places. I would say the downtown area in Muncie is being revitalized. Lots of really awesome things going on down there, and then there's a huge project called The Village that's just right off campus at Ball State that, the university and private investors have invested about $200 million in that space. And it's got shopping, it's got restaurants, it's got college type places, just a little bit of everything. So, a ton of energy around Muncie right now, a ton of progress, but I would say for me, like, those would kind of be my recommendations. If you're coming to Muncie to grab a meal, those would be the places I'd say hit up.
I was just looking at the Roots Burger Bar website right there. When you get in there, it says wings for 8 bone-in wings for $9.99, or they choose. They have
That's a
tacos. You can choose 2 for $6 or 4 for $10, but they have fish, steak, chicken, or ground beef tacos. So that all sounds amazing. So. But, hey, well, Andy, we appreciate you stopping on by. We know it's obviously the middle of soccer season. Clearly, you're in Buffalo, New York right now, right? So getting ready for a game here tonight at
a good time to go to Buffalo.
The best time is right now.
Yeah, that's right. Right before all the snow, right?
But we appreciate you stopping on by here. We wish you much success, obviously, not only in your career, but obviously the rest of the way here in this 2025 season. And we look forward to having you back here in the future.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. I do appreciate it. I appreciate you reaching out and, excited to be on here and really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Andy Stoots, the first-year head coach at Ball State, and the Cardinals, has them currently 4-3-2, 1-1-1 in the MAC, taking on Buffalo here in the Bulls later this evening. They're out in Buffalo, New York. We come back here on episode number 166. We'll continue our conversation about the U.S. men's national team, Christian Pulisic and company, who are having success across the pond, as well as Gio Reyna on a board of a team, now in ownership. We'll talk about that here on the other side of the break. Welcome back here into Inside the Game. I was looking at the menu here of this La Hoyt's
My man,
Steakhouse.
he was not ready to come back from break. He's hungry.
La Hoy's Steakhouse here in Muncie, Indiana. First off, they don't put prices on the menu, so that's when you know. That's when you know, right? Yeah, and probably everything in that steakhouse is probably a la carte, is my guess, right? But I'm looking at the steak. Ron's signature bone-in ribeye, 240 ounces. Delmonico, 140.
Feeding a village?
Sorry, it's 24 ounces. I apologize. 24 ounces. I made that. That seemed like a lot of ounces. A 14-ounce Delmonico. I mean, dry aged 30 days. Bone-in ribeye, a bone-in fillet. I mean, this is my cut. This is a great place to go to have a meal. If you like,
it
you like
sounds
steak,
delicious.
this is it, man. Huh?
Yeah. Big red meat guy. Absolutely. I
You
don't
need
need
to travel to
I
Muncie,
don't need-
Indiana, go watch a Ball State
It's a
women's soccer
beautiful
game
place, I'll tell you that.
and go eat some steak at La Jolla Steakhouse. That's what we should do here. But
Let's do it, boys. We got to start doing remote shows from restaurants. Let's hook that up.
Yeah.
Little
And
podcast.
9 a.m. though, I don't
How
know
about
if you mean, I got to get to a brunch place.
Right.
Changes
Right.
inside the game at night, But anyways, welcome back here to Inside the Game here on this Thursday morning. That's Nathan Wangler. I'm Jonathan Turner. Ryan Glinsky, our producer. It was announced yesterday here in Twitter land, X land, social media land, whatever you want to call it. Gio Reyna will be taking over, not taking over, but joining the board of the Fort Lauderdale United side down in Florida, which is obviously a departure from him being a player. So he'll now be also in the ownership group. And, curious, I don't know if this could be more about creating a buzz, right, than about him actually be participating in this team to that level. But I have two concerns here. Really, one main concern is this going to be a distraction? Because if he's focused on making the World Cup team, why would you want to be involved in that right now? I'm curious from that perspective, and I'm curious your guys' thoughts as well.
Well, I mean, you have financial people that help you take care of that stuff, right? So, I mean, is it distracting him specifically? I don't think so. I mean, I think when you're in a professional at that level, you have people in positions to make those decisions for you and handle that money. Now, obviously, that's very anxious, I'm sure, for certain athletes, because you got to be able to trust who handles your money. But I just think he has people in his corner that probably think it's the right thing to do to start investing in the USL. And I mean, I can't say I disagree. I'll get into that more a little bit later. Brian, I don't know if you have an opinion on whether or not it's distracting him from making the team, but I would assume he has financial people who are making these decisions for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a USL team. It's in Fort Lauderdale. He just made a move to Mönchengladbach anyway, so I think it's fine. I mean, I don't think it's a distraction. He's even mentioned it to himself. Like, he's actually put in a couple of good performances off the bench and as a starter for Mönchengladbach to start this season, and I think it was probably something that's been in the works for a while. And, it finally just came to light. I don't think this is really going to distract him, because he's even mentioned that he wants to be in the U.S. squad come the World Cup time. And he's talked to Pochettino. He said he knows exactly what he needs to do. And I think it's fine. It's for a post-soccer career. That's mainly what this move is.
No, I don't know if I disagree with your assessment either. I just, again, from a concern standpoint, is if, he's already made the acknowledgement that he's looking from the outside into that role in the World Cup. He talked about it recently in regards to his conversation with Pochettino. And yeah, obviously he's not going to be involved in the day-to-day operations of this club, but if it's not about his play, it's a distraction. Right. And I'm just saying that you could absolutely be part of that team and do what you're talking about doing. But he also has a father, a famous father. Right. And so could this not have been a Claudio Reyna thing, that could have been done? And that leaves that focused off of him. Because, again, the things that have really been a factor in Gio Reyna's development from the standpoint of having success within the U.S. men's national team has been nothing to do with really his performance on the field and how he handles himself off the field. It's what happened in the last World Cup. And so I have that concern that if he is trying to make this team, if he is trying to be successful on this team, is this in fact a distraction from what he's trying to accomplish? And obviously time will tell. Obviously they say the pundits will do what the pundits do, which is to create these storylines. But, he opted to make this decision right now. And I still feel like there's going to be distraction. But that's my concern. And I think it's based on where he's been and what he's done. I feel like it's rightfully so.
Yeah. And I do think he's on the outside looking in. I don't think there's any question mark about that. I think Gio needs to prove himself. And I'd be interested to see if he's a part of this next international window. Because if he does, I mean, that's the biggest storyline in my mind right there. Like, what can Gio Reyna do because I do believe that in terms of what he brings on the field, obviously he can be a massive piece for this team. But under Berhalter, and when you go back to the last World Cup, that entire saga, it seemed like for a while he was just a cancer in the locker room. But in terms of his investment, just this part specifically, I just think he has investors, maybe people in his corner that are just like, hey, this is a smart investment. Here's the details. Should we go along with doing this? Like, I don't think this really has anything to do in terms of him really being all that involved, because, I mean, maybe I'm crazy. I don't know Gio Reyna specifically, but, I mean, my guess is his only focus is really on playing, soccer right now. So I don't know how much of a distraction it is. What I will say is, like, it's not a bad investment. I think now is the time to invest in the USL. I think right now is the time, if you're looking to get into a league or invest in a league or in a club or anything like that, this is the league and the place to be, because we've covered the arms race in terms of building facilities. We've seen several different USL facilities step up what they have and are building something big and brand new, whether that be Detroit City, whether that be Pittsburgh, what we saw with the Riverhounds. We've seen the response in terms of attendance and people really filling out the stands at these places. I mean, Vermont Green's a perfect example, right? They don't have an MLS side. They don't have, I think that's like, they don't have pro sports, right? So they've rallied behind that team, but there's other towns just like that. Annapolis, who's rallied behind their squad, that we've seen the attendance boom at the USL. I think it's growing slowly but surely, but I do think that there was, at least this year, I've seen a lot of promise in what that league presents outside of our one main option in terms of the professional realm in the United States and the MLS. I think it's a great product. So I like the investment, but does it distract? I don't know.
Yeah, again, obviously time will tell, and like Ryan had already alluded to, and you as well, is that I'm sure he's got a financial advisor, and he's got a group of people who are there to support him and help him in that path. And if anyone here thinks that Ryan Reynolds and Rob, and I can't think of Rob McElhenney are like deeply engulfed in this, I mean, they're engulfed to an extent, but they've hired people. They have a team of people who are running the operations of this team, and yet they're informing them in emails and text messages of what's going on.
Tom Brady, all those guys.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, he's not going to be like inundated with the day-to-day operations of this club. But again, anything that takes away from him focusing on just playing soccer and making this World Cup team are, in my opinion, distractions. When we come back here from this last break here, we're going to dive into, again, the success that the U.S. men's national team players right now are having across the pond. Are they, in fact, peaking too soon? Is this something of concern we should be talking about? We'll dive into that here on the other side of the break.
Are you ready to create unforgettable moments for your audience? NSN offers professional live streaming and full broadcast services tailored to your needs. From high-quality production to exceptional coverage, we ensure your game or event becomes a spectacle to remember. Book your next game with us today. Call 586-304-4405 to schedule your broadcast and let NSN bring the action to life like never before.
Welcome back here to Inside the Game, 9:45 a.m. here on this Thursday morning. I'm Jonathan Turner. That's Nathan Wengler, Ryan Glinsky, our producer. If you first time stopping by, hit that subscribe button, like us, and share this with your friends and family. We are live right now on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Roku, YouTube, and TikTok. So if you're watching in those platforms, let us know. Get involved in the comments. We'll actually read your comments off here during our live show here this morning. And obviously, you can watch this later on on demand wherever your heart desires. We are going to dive in here now to, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday because Pulisic is off to a really, really good start here in Serie A. We talked about that yesterday, scoring 5 goals in 6 games, I believe was the number, right? And he also had an assist as well. And he's having one of the best starts in the history of Serie A in regards to this start. And when we talk about the players like Josh Sargent, right, who's had a great start to his season as well, is this too soon for our players to be peaking? Are we peaking at the right time? Because again, the competition and results, they come in, even the ebb and flow, right? They're going to go up and down. You're going to see some droughts. Even your best hitters are going to go through a slump.
The Tigers.
Yeah, as Ryan says, the Tigers over here off to my left, which is true because the Tigers had unlike last year where they were chasing the playoffs and made an unbelievable run. This year, it is the reverse effect. They had a very good lead going into the last 14 games and have lost 12 in a row, 11 in a row.
Too many games.
Yeah. So anyways, should we be concerned that the players on this U.S. men's national team are having really good success right now, or would it have been better to have that success in, February, March? And does it matter? That's the question I asked to both of you. I also asked to our viewers here watching this morning. Should we be concerned right now about their success?
I mean, the number one thing we've been talking about really since the Gold Cup is when are we going to figure out what we have at our disposal? When are we actually going to see what we have and who will fit in what spots and really start to solidify certain parts of the field? And there are still certain positions that we're not obviously 100% on, but that has been the pressing question really since the Gold Cup and really since that Gold Cup roster came out. When you and I looked at each other and went, look at how many players, the sheer amount of players who decided to opt out of this last international cup competition before the World Cup, we didn't know what we had. Yeah, Diego Luna looked great. Okay, cool. Matt Freese had a great performance against Costa Rica. Obviously, Chris Richards is Chris Richards, and we saw what Malik Tillman could do. But outside of that, we didn't have any answers on anybody, anywhere. And now we're getting into 2025 in a brand new season, and we're seeing what Christian Pulisic is doing, and we're seeing what Tim Weah is doing, and we're seeing what Chris Richards is doing, and we're seeing what, name the player. It's giving us a better idea of who we have and who we should plug into what spots. And if it makes it more confusing for certain positions, because there are certain positions on the field right now that are more confusing because everybody's doing well, that's a good problem to have. Because that gives you more flexibility as Mauricio Pochettino to try out more things, to see exactly what works for this team and everything leading up to the World Cup. Because we are in such an unbelievably good position right now to not have to qualify. We don't have to qualify. We don't have to worry about winning now just to get in. And you have all these different players who are exceeding at a very high level across the pond. So not only do you have options, but you still have a little bit of time to figure it out in front of you. If this happened further on down the line as we were closer to the World Cup, now it's a mad scramble. Now we're really trying to figure out what we have. I know it doesn't impact this team specifically in the U.S. men's national team, but I would rather have more time and options than be like our back is against the wall. We just got to go with what we have. We really don't have a choice. And then risk leaving something on the table. So I think we're just kind of overthinking it. I think it's okay to just feel good about what Americans are doing right now. I think that's okay.
Ryan, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are I absolutely love what they're doing overseas, and I think it's great to see. But at the end of the day, I'm not saying it doesn't matter, because it absolutely does matter how they're playing and how well they're doing. But when it comes to the national team, you got to throw all the stuff what you did with your club, to the side. And we have not seen this team together. We have not seen our true A team, if you want to call it that, together. So we have not seen what this team looks like together. I absolutely believe that what they're doing overseas matters. it could also be at the same time is maybe they're figuring it out overseas and they're just going to be playing well. Not saying to the extent that Pulisic will be scoring goals and grabbing assists, not to that level, because that's an extreme level that only the real greats can do for a long period of time. I don't think he's going to keep up with that pace. But maybe they're just figuring out. Maybe they're because they're all kind of reaching that prime part of their career, the mid to late 20s. That's what they're reaching right now. Maybe they're just figuring it out. But when it comes to the national team, we have not seen this group all together in one or two games. I think with the October camp and the November camp, which I do want to play a game with you guys coming up soon in the next couple of shows about the U.S. men's national team roster. So stay tuned for that. But I think that I think we just have to get the group together. Let's get the group together, and if the group as a whole is peaking at the right time, which is in the World Cup tune-up games, I believe there's a March camp as well, and then if they are playing well then that's fine with me. What they're doing overseas, I think, is great because that boosts their confidence. That means that they're understanding the game. They're making themselves better for the men's national team. But until we get this group together, I don't think them playing really well at this point right now matters come World Cup time. It's got to be the group together.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We keep talking about this. This is the thing that we're going to be kind of hampered by and stuck on here until June when the first game kicks off, right? It is what is this team going to look like and how are they going to perform, right? And I think a lot of us have reservations about this team as a whole performing as one singular unit, all driving towards having success in the World Cup. We haven't seen it for a long period of time. And so, of course, we're going to be asking questions. I also think it's important to talk about the fact that, can you sustain it? Is the success that players are having over there sustainable? And I even talked about this the other day about the confidence that I had when I was playing, coming from my high school environment where I was playing against juniors, sophomores, and other freshmen when I was a freshman. The confidence that gave me going into my club team where I was only playing against the kids that were my own age, it helped me in so many different ways. So I do believe that what's happening overseas with Josh Sargent and Pulisic and these players like Tyler Adams and Reyna, who are playing in very, very difficult environments, playing against teams and players who are way better than most of the players that they're going to play against in the United States, gives them a whole nother set of confidence that will help them perform when it's time to play internationally. But again, our concern, which is something we've all talked to about here this morning and throughout really the last couple of months, is will it all show up when they play together as a group? And more importantly, will we see the players who are having that success right now across the pond in their group play? Now, I think that we've also alluded to the fact that do we care about October as much as we do about November? Or do we care more about March? Like, when do we as a nation, when it comes to this U.S. men's national team, when do we care about this team being together and competing when it's the final roster? Because right now, Pochettino is still trying to figure out who number 18 on the roster is. Right? He's still trying to figure out who's number 19 is, who's number 13 on the roster. Is Gio Reyna even going to make it? And so I think that's it. And where do we sit in all that? Because again, if October really matters, then every player should be there. Right? So I just, when do we start to say, hey, this is when we need to see this team playing? Is it this next round of friendlies in October, or is it November? Because I know we talk about Portugal and Uruguay, right? I think we talk about they're playing. They're playing Uruguay?
They play Uruguay in I forget when, but
it's in November.
Portugal's in March, and I think Belgium.
Oh, Portugal's in March. My bad. Okay, so when does it matter? When do we want to see these specific players all together on the field? Is now what it is, or is it, hey, we want to see it in February?
So here's my take on this right now. We are now in the grand scheme of things with the remaining games. So October 10th, Ecuador. October 14th, Australia. The 15th is November 15th is Paraguay, and November 18th is Uruguay. Portugal, and then there's one other one in March, which I believe is supposed to be Belgium. Good test for us. Here's how I'm treating this right now. we are now in NFL preseason mode right now. We have a group of, let's say, 35 players to get down to the 26-man roster. Every single player from here on out is considered for the World Cup roster. I don't care what happened in September. Some of those players are not going to come back for the World Cup. But we are now trimming our 90-man NFL roster to 53. We have a group of 35, maybe 40 at max players that we have got to trim down to 26. And I know there's a lot of time. Injuries can happen, whether for its club or whether it's international. But we should start carrying right now. Whatever this roster is coming in, starting for the October camp, are they going to make a significant impact? Because I don't want some MLS player that might not be on this roster or like does not even have a chance of being on the roster. I do not want them in this October camp. I do not want them in November camp. I don't want them in March. I don't want them for the tune-up games. I don't want them at all. Now from here to June should be every single player has a shot of making the World Cup roster, and that's exactly what they should be doing right now. October camp is going to be week 1 of preseason NFL football. November camp is going to be preseason week 2, and then in March is going to be preseason week 3, and then the tune-up games, that's your NFL roster, that's your World Cup roster.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, let's just stop playing around, stop messing around with certain players that might be on the fringe, that might be on the border. I mean, that was wonderfully stated, Ryan. I agree, and I think that's why we saw the response that we saw to, that first international window with South Korea and Japan. I think a lot of people scratch their heads about certain people that were on there. No offense to Rodon, but it's like why? Like we have better options in those spots. Like let's stop playing this game. So. 100%. No, I thought you nailed right on the head, man.
Question of the day.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I forgot about the question of the day till like 2 minutes ago. Just letting you guys know, but we got one. But before we do that, Salt Athletic is an official sponsor for us here at NSN. Use promo code NSN15 to save 15% off. Scan that QR code on your screen or visit saltathletic.com today. But question of the day that I just came up with just a couple of seconds ago. How long until Christian Pulisic starts to slow down? He's currently on a rate of scoring a goal every 57 minutes.
It's an interesting question. My guess is sooner than later.
Through the World Cup.
You said after the World Cup, or would you say?
Yeah, no, through the end of the World Cup. So all the way through the season, through the World Cup. And then once it's over, he just falls off. And we just never hear from him again.
Takes a break.
Wins us a World Cup, scores 35 goals for AC Milan, Ballon d'Or winner, and then we never hear from him ever again.
That's right. He goes all right off in the sunset.
That'd be a great way to go out.
Goes out in the retirement league of the MLS.
Hey, don't be saying that. People get mad. People get mad when you say call the MLS retirement league.
He's playing in Columbus next year.
Give that man with a cane.
He's 27 years old. He's washed up. He's retired.
He's washed.
Honestly, that would be
and right on time.
That would be the perfect scenario, right? He can continue to sustain it. From someone that's played this game my entire life, I haven't played a number of years, but played it significantly in my life and been a referee and been a coach. I can tell you that it's not sustainable long term. This is something that, again, it's an ebb and flow thing. Will he score 20 goals this season? Yeah, it's very possible. But again, as these teams are in the early stages of their season, players are they're trying to, get that dust off, right? And so as that happens, players will start to get into their top form, and you'll start to see things trying to start to shape out the way they're supposed to shape out. And so I expect that to happen. I expect Christian Pulisic to be a huge part of his side there in that Serie A and with AC Milan. And I'm hoping that what he'll do is he'll have enough gas in the tank so that he can help carry that torch for us in the World Cup. Because as much as I want him to have success over at AC Milan, and I do, being selfish and wanting the U.S. men's national team to be successful in the World Cup, I want him. If he had scored 0 goals at AC Milan and scored 10 goals during the World Cup, that'd be great. But you score 30 goals in the Serie A and you score 0 and have nothing happening in the World Cup, I think we could all agree we'd rather have the opposite of that. So, 10 goals just seems to be very unrealistic too in the World Cup. But you get my point.
I just think the most important thing to take away from this, it's just confidence building for these players. That's all it is. I mean, it's more confidence. It's more positive reinforcement when you're going out and dominating the way that you are. And I think that all of that is good when we look forward to the World Cup. Does it have any sort of big implication on... No, I mean, it means really nothing at the end of the day for the U.S. men's national team. The only thing it means is that we're getting a better look at certain players, and they are building confidence. And right, that individual confidence is still just as important to team success as team camaraderie or culture or any of these other things that we talked about. Like, we need these guys coming in feeling good so that they can mesh and go out and win a few games. But I just, it's important, but it's also important, as we talked about, not to read too far into it. That's the other big part of this entire conversation.
Absolutely. That'll wrap up here, episode number 166 here on this Thursday, September the 25th. Again, we've had a great week of guests. So that will only continue here tomorrow as Gareth Elliott will join us. University of Rhode Island men's soccer program will join us here tomorrow at 9 a.m. We had a chance yesterday to talk with Bob Butehorn, University of South Florida was out of the American Athletic Conference, the AAC. He joined us yesterday after our live show, so we had that pre-recorded interview. We also had a chance to talk with Batman yesterday.
The University of Darkness is your ally.
The University of Toledo Rockets head soccer coach on the women's side. So we talked with him yesterday and a number of his players. We talked with Morgan, I believe it was Spittler, and we talked with Gabrielle Anular, and they were both on the pre-recording yesterday. So we'll have that available here sometime early next week. We continue to have, again, more guests locked up and loaded here for next week as well. So we'll continue to update you on those here tomorrow. A big weekend coming ahead as well as we continue to have our hockey on Sports Nation TV. We've got some UPSL broadcasts. Oak University men's soccer will be on ESPN Plus this weekend. And so a lot of really great things happening as Ryan continues to push the button here.
I thought there was more.
But that'll wrap up number 166. That's Nathan Wengler, Ryan Glinsky, our producer. I'm Jonathan Turner. We'll be back here tomorrow morning, same time, same place, right here on Inside the Game. From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wengler bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside the Game.